tonight, your only job is to rest. As this audio plays, you can let your mind drift gently, without effort, without needing to follow every detail. The ocean can do the work for you. The rhythm of water can become the rhythm of your breathing. And the steady flow of calm facts can give your thoughts something soft to rest on. If you are arriving here with a busy day behind you, that is okay. The mind does not have to switch off all at once. It can slow down the way a shoreline quiets after a wave has passed. One breath at a time, one gentle sentence at a time. Imagine a calm ocean at night, not dramatic, not stormy, just wide, dark water moving in small, patient motions. Above it, a quiet sky. Below it, the deep layers of the sea, stacked like soft blankets, each one cooler, darker, and stiller than the one above. The ocean covers more than 70% of Earth's surface. That means most of our planet is water, moving, circulating, and carrying heat around the globe. And yet, in the moment, the ocean can feel incredibly simple. Water, salt, light, motion. A slow, repeating pattern that has existed for billions of years. The surface, gently explained at the surface. The ocean meets the air. This boundary is thin, delicate, and always changing. Even on a calm day, the surface is rarely motionless. A breeze can form tiny ripples called capillary waves, small enough to vanish in seconds, and small enough to feel like a shimmer rather than a wave. When the wind continues, those tiny ripples become larger waves. The wind transfers energy into the water, and the ocean carries that energy forward. Waves are not water traveling in a straight line as much as they are energy moving through water, like a slow, rolling signal. A wave has a crest and a trough. The crest is the high part. The trough is the low part. Between them is the gentle rise and fall that can make the ocean feel like breathing. Far offshore, waves can travel for long distances as swells. Swells are smoother and more organized than wind-chopped waves shore. Because they have had time to settle into a rhythm, they move in sets, spaced apart, lifting and lowering the sea in a calm pattern. Sometimes, standing on a beach, you can notice it. A few waves arrive, then a pause, then another set. That pattern can be comforting. It feels like the ocean is patient, like it is never in a hurry. Light on water, the ocean's color is shaped by light. Sunlight contains many colors, but water absorbs some colors faster than others. Red light is absorbed quickly. Orange and yellow fade soon after. Blue light travels farther, which is one reason the open ocean often appears blue. This also means that the deeper you go, the more the world changes. Near the surface, you have bright light and warm water. But as depth increases, the light thins out, and the ocean becomes quieter, colder, and darker, like a long descent into calm. On certain days, the surface can look like glass. When wind is low and the sea is smooth, the ocean reflects the sky so clearly that the horizon can feel soft. Sky and water blend together. It can look like the world has only two elements: blue above, blue below. At sunrise, the surface can take on pale pink and gold. At midday, it can be bright and shimmering. At sunset, the ocean can turn dark and metallic, reflecting the last light like a slow-moving mirror. Warmth, cooling, and gentle mixing, the top layer of the ocean warms first. Sunlight heats the surface, creating a warmer layer above cooler water. But as the day changes, the surface cools again, especially at night, when heat escapes back into the air. As the surface cools, it can sink slightly and mix with the water below. This slow mixing helps distribute heat and nutrients. It's part of the ocean's quiet maintenance, its way of staying balanced. Even when the ocean looks calm, there is constant exchange happening at the surface. Gases move between ocean and air. Water evaporates. Moisture becomes clouds. Clouds become rain. And rain returns to the sea. The ocean is not separate from the sky. They are connected by evaporation, and weather by wind and temperature, by the slow cycle of water moving through different forms. Sound as a steady guide, the sound of waves, is often described as soothing because it contains a broad range of frequencies, like gentle noise that covers sharp sounds. It can help the nervous system settle because it feels consistent, safe, and predictable, even when the pattern is not perfectly regular. A breaking wave is a release of energy. The wave has traveled, carried forward by wind and distance, and then in shallow water it rises and tips forward, dissolving into foam. The energy spreads out, and the ocean resets itself. You can let your body do the same. With each exhale, energy can release. With each small pause, your muscles can soften. With each minute, the day can feel farther away. The thin skin of the sea there is a real physical skin at the top of the ocean. Scientists call it the sea surface microlayer. It is extremely thin, but it can contain organic material, tiny organisms, and nutrients that collect at the boundary between air and water. This tiny layer matters because it is where the ocean and atmosphere meet most directly. It's part of how the ocean exchanges gases, including carbon dioxide and oxygen, with the air above. If you imagine the planet from far away, you could think of Earth as wrapped in two thin layers. A thin ocean surface layer that touches the air, and an atmosphere that touches space. Between those thin layers, so much life happens. And inside your own body, something similar is always happening. Breath moves in and out. Heat moves out into the air. The boundary between inside and outside is not rigid. It is a quiet exchange. A calm transition now, as the ocean's surface fades from your attention. You can begin to drift just slightly below it. Not deep yet, just beneath the light. In the next part, the ocean becomes a place of gentle abundance, life drifting, floating, and moving in slow patterns through the upper waters. If you are still awake, that is perfectly fine. There is nothing you need to achieve. The ocean will keep moving, and you can simply keep resting. Now you can drift into the sunlight zone. This is the upper layer of the ocean where light still reaches, where the water can feel alive with motion, and where tiny drifting organisms quietly support almost everything else. The sunlight zone is also called the epipelagic zone. It reaches from the surface down to roughly 200 meters, or about 650 feet. The exact depth depends on the clarity of the water and the angle of the sun. But the idea is simple. This is the layer where sunlight still matters. In this zone, the ocean can sparkle, not only at the surface, but within the water itself, as light scatters and bends through moving waves. If you have ever looked into clear, shallow water and watched bright patterns dance across sand, you have seen sunlight being shaped by water's motion. Phytoplankton, the quiet foundation in the sunlight zone. Tiny drifting organisms called phytoplankton float near the surface. They are not one single creature, but many kinds, microscopic plants and plant-like organisms. They live in the water column, suspended like dust in a beam of light, carried where currents take them. Phytoplankton are important because they use photosynthesis. They take in carbon dioxide, absorb sunlight, and release oxygen. They form the base of the ocean food web, meaning that much of the life in the sea depends on them directly or indirectly. Sometimes, phytoplankton gather in blooms. A bloom can happen when conditions are right, enough sunlight, enough nutrients, the right water temperature. From above, these blooms can tint the sea green or turquoise, like a soft watercolor wash across the surface. Even imagining it can feel calming. A wide ocean, gently colored by microscopic life, drifting without effort. Zooplankton, tiny animals drifting where phytoplankton float. Zooplankton often follow. Zooplankton are tiny drifting animals. Some are permanent plankton for their entire lives. Others are larvae, baby forms of crabs, fish, and other sea creatures starting life as drifting specks before growing into their adult shapes. This drifting stage is quiet and vulnerable. They cannot swim strongly against currents, so they move with the water. They feed, they grow, and they become part of the slow, constant exchange between predator and prey that keeps the ocean balanced. It can help to think of this as the ocean's gentle economy. Nothing is wasted for long. Energy moves from sunlight to phytoplankton, from phytoplankton to zooplankton, from zooplankton to small fish, and upward through the web of life. Schools of fish and the comfort of patterns. Many small fish travel in schools. A school is not just a group. It is a coordinated movement, like a single body made of many parts. Fish adjust their speed and direction based on the fish beside them, creating patterns that ripple through the group faster than thought. From a distance, a school of fish can look like a cloud. It expands and contracts. It turns in smooth curves. It flashes silver when it catches the light, and then it becomes blue again, blending back into the water. This kind of movement can feel relaxing to watch because it is organized but not forced. It is cooperation without planning, a quiet alignment, a flowing agreement. Gentle giants near the surface in the sunlight zone. There are also larger animals that move with ease. Manta rays glide like slow wings. Sea turtles drift with steady, patient strokes. Dolphins travel in pods and can rest one half of their brain at a time, allowing them to keep breathing while still sleeping. Many marine mammals must return to the surface to breathe air. That return becomes part of their rhythm. Dive, move, rise, breathe, and sink again. If it helps, you can let your breathing mirror this. Not forced, not counted, just a gentle cycle. Inhale and exhale. Coral reefs, living structures in warmer, shallow parts of the sunlight zone. Coral reefs grow. Corals are animals, even though they look like rocks or plants. They live in colonies with tiny polyps building calcium carbonate skeletons over time, over years and centuries. These small structures grow into massive reefs, complex habitats that support many forms of life. Reefs are often called rainforests of the sea. They shelter fish, crustaceans, sea stars, and countless other organisms. They create hiding places, feeding grounds, and nurseries for young animals. Even when you are only imagining it, a reef can feel like a gentle city. Not loud, not crowded, just busy in a quiet way, life moving in small, purposeful motions, all held within the calm of the water. The ocean's daily vertical rhythm, one of the most peaceful patterns in the ocean, happens every day. As the sun sets, many animals rise toward the surface to feed. As the sun returns, they sink back down into deeper water. This is called diel vertical migration, and it is sometimes described as the largest daily movement of animals on Earth. It is like the ocean has its own slow tide of living bodies, not driven by the moon, but by light, up at night, down by day, a gentle rhythm that repeats again and again. Night water and soft light at night, the sunlight zone becomes a different place. The surface darkens, the horizon softens, and in some areas, the ocean begins to glow. This glow can come from bioluminescent plankton, tiny organisms that emit light when disturbed. A wave breaks and the foam flickers blue. A hand moves through water and sparks of light trail behind it. It can look like a galaxy in motion, a quiet reminder that light can exist even in darkness, and that the ocean holds surprises that are gentle, not alarming. Soft repetition for sleep, and now, without needing to remember every detail, you can let the ideas become more repetitive, more soothing. Light above, water below, tiny drifting life, slow movement, gentle patterns. The ocean does not rush. It repeats what works. It continues. If you are still awake, that is perfectly okay. The next part will drift deeper, where the light fades and everything slows down even more. You don't have to follow the descent. You can simply rest as the ocean carries the story forward. Perfect Chunk 2 at 15:01 puts you back on track. Updated targets after Chunk 2 time used so far Chunks 1-2. 15:09 seconds, 25:09. Time remaining to reach 2 and 0 seconds, 56:91 seconds. Across the remaining 6 chunks, the new average target is 948.5 seconds each, about 15:49 per chunk. Chunk 3 of 8 Ocean, Twilight Zone, aim 15:45:16:15. File name suggestion: Ocean 3TXT Kokoro settings. Voice AF Nicole. Speed 0.7 now. You can begin to drift into the twilight zone. This is the layer beneath the bright surface waters, where sunlight still exists, but only faintly. It is not complete darkness yet. It is a dim, blue-gray world, like the last light after sunset. The twilight zone is also called the mesopelagic zone. It stretches from about 200 meters down to about 1,000 meters. In feet, that is roughly 650 down to around 3,300. As you descend, the water grows colder. The pressure increases, and the light becomes thin, less like a beam, more like a memory of brightness. If it helps, imagine this descent as a soft quieting, not falling, not sinking with weight, just drifting down through layers that grow calmer and calmer, the way thoughts can become softer when you are close to sleep. Light that fades, and eyes that adapt in the twilight zone. There is not enough light for photosynthesis. So plants and plant-like plankton cannot make food here. But animals still live here in enormous numbers. They have adapted to low light in different ways, often by developing large eyes, reflective tissues, and special light-detecting cells. Some fish have eyes that look oversized compared to their bodies. Those large eyes gather what little light remains. They can detect faint silhouettes above, or tiny flashes in the water around them. Other animals rely less on sight and more on sensing vibration, pressure changes, and subtle movement. In the twilight zone, you don't need to see everything to understand what is near you. You only need gentle awareness, like noticing your own breathing without trying to control it. The ocean's quiet lanterns, many twilight zone creatures use bioluminescence. Bioluminescence is light made by living organisms through a chemical reaction. It is not heat, not fire, not electricity, just a soft glow created inside the body. The light can be used in many ways. Some creatures glow to attract prey. Some glow to communicate. Some glow to confuse predators. And some glow to hide. One of the most soothing ideas in the twilight zone is that light can be used as camouflage. Some fish have light-producing organs on their undersides. They shine downward, matching the faint light from above, so that predators looking up cannot see their silhouette. This is called counterillumination. It is a gentle kind of invisibility, not disappearing by force, just blending into the background, matching the environment until the boundary between body and water becomes hard to see. Lanternfish and the daily migration lanternfish are among the most abundant fish in the ocean. They are small, but there are vast numbers of them in the twilight zone. They have tiny light organs, like little lanterns, along their bodies. Every day, many lanternfish rise closer to the surface at night to feed. Then, as daylight returns, they drift back down into deeper water. This daily movement is part of diel vertical migration. It happens not just with lanternfish, but with many other animals too. Small fish, squid, crustaceans. It is a global rhythm, repeating across the world's oceans, day after day, night after night. You can think of it as the ocean's quiet commute, up under darkness, down under daylight, a pattern that is steady, ancient, and calming in its reliability. Marine snow, the slow rain of the deep in the twilight zone. Food is not as plentiful as it is near the surface. One of the main sources of food is something called marine snow. Marine snow is not frozen water. It is a slow fall of tiny organic particles, bits of dead plankton, microscopic fragments, and other drifting material from the surface layers above. These particles sink gently, like dust floating down through a quiet room. They feed many animals in the midwater and deep sea. They are part of how energy moves downward through the ocean. It is a soothing image, a constant, gentle snowfall in the dark, not urgent, not dramatic, just slow, steady nourishment drifting down. Squid, soft bodies, and quiet motion squid are common in and near the twilight zone. They move by jet propulsion, pulling water into their bodies and pushing it out to glide forward. Some squid have light organs, and some can change color using specialized skin cells called chromatophores. But in the twilight zone, color matters less than shape and shadow. Many animals are dark red or black. Red light does not reach these depths, so red bodies can appear nearly invisible, another quiet kind of camouflage. Some squid have large eyes, scanning for faint light and motion, and some can produce brief flashes of bioluminescence, like signals sent through a dark room. Pressure, calmly described as depth increases, pressure increases. Water is heavy and stacked in miles above you. In the twilight zone, pressure is already many times higher than at the surface. But the animals here are adapted. Their bodies contain few air spaces. Many are soft and flexible. They do not fight pressure. They simply exist within it, built for the environment, the way a boat is built for water. That can be a comforting thought, too. Not fighting, not resisting, just adapting, settling, and letting the environment hold you. A brief, gentle reset if you are still awake. That is okay. The twilight zone is meant to soften your attention. You do not need to memorize facts. You can let them pass like marine snow, drifting down through the mind, slower and slower. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Deeper still, approaching darkness below the twilight zone is the midnight zone. This is where sunlight disappears completely. The ocean becomes truly dark, cold, and still, and the life there becomes even more strange and even more quiet, moving slowly, conserving energy, surviving in calm ways. In the next chunk, the ocean will drift into that darkness, and you can drift with it safely. No effort, no need to stay alert. Just rest and let the descent become a lullaby. Now you can drift into the midnight zone. This is the part of the ocean where sunlight no longer reaches at all. The world becomes truly dark, not like nighttime at the surface, but like a place where light has never existed. The midnight zone is also called the bathypelagic zone. It begins around 1,000 meters and extends down to about 4,000 meters. In feet, that is roughly 3,300 down to about 13,000. Here, the ocean is cold. The water temperature is often just above freezing. The pressure is immense, and yet life continues quietly, patiently, in forms that are built for this environment. If the surface ocean is like a bright, open sky, the midnight zone is like a deep, calm room with the lights turned off. Nothing is demanding your attention. Everything can soften. Darkness that is not empty. It is easy to imagine darkness as emptiness. But in the deep ocean, darkness is simply the absence of sunlight. The water is still full of movement, chemistry, and living bodies. Many animals here make their own light. Not a bright light, just tiny sparks, soft glows, brief signals. Bioluminescence becomes more common the deeper you go. Because in darkness, even a small light can be meaningful. Some creatures glow continuously, like a dim lamp. Others flash once and vanish. Some use light as a lure. Some use it as a warning. Some use it to vanish into the background. The anglerfish. Patience in the dark. One of the most famous animals of the midnight zone is the anglerfish. The image is strange, but the strategy is calm. A female anglerfish often carries a glowing lure in front of her mouth. It is a small light produced by living bacteria or by the fish's own chemistry, depending on the species. In the dark, a curious small fish may swim toward the glow, and then, in one quick movement, the anglerfish eats. It does not chase. It does not waste energy. It waits. The midnight zone rewards patience. Bodies designed for pressure in the deep sea. Pressure is not something you can fight. So many animals do not try to. Instead, they are built without large air pockets. They are often soft-bodied, flexible, and strong in the way water is strong, able to yield without breaking. Some deep-sea fish have delicate bones. Some have watery tissues. Many have slow metabolisms. Energy is precious in the deep ocean, so life here tends to be efficient. The slow economy of food becomes scarcer as you go deeper. Much of the deep ocean depends on what falls from above: marine snow, sinking particles, and sometimes larger. Food falls, like the remains of fish or marine mammals. When a larger body falls into the deep sea, it can become a rare feast. Scavengers may find it, sometimes guided by chemical cues in the water. They gather, feed, and then drift away again, leaving only bones, and then, eventually, not even that. This may sound intense, but in the deep ocean, it is simply part of balance. Nothing is wasted for long. The deep sea recycles what it receives. Life persists through careful use of what is available. Strange mouths and gentle strategies in the midnight zone. Some animals have mouths that look oversized. This is not because they are aggressive. It is because meals are unpredictable. When you find food, you may need to eat it, even if it is larger than you expected, because you might not find another meal soon. Some fish can unhinge their jaws. Some have expandable stomachs. Some have long, thin bodies designed to drift, conserving energy. Whales whales that visit the dark even though whales breathe air. Some whales visit the deep darkness. Sperm whales, for example, can dive very deep in search of squid. They use echolocation, sending out clicks and listening to echoes to sense the shape and distance of prey in total darkness. In the midnight zone, sound can matter more than sight. Sound travels well in water. It moves far, and it can carry information through a dark world that eyes cannot see. If it helps, imagine the deep ocean as a place you can sense without looking. A place where you can rest without needing to watch anything. A place where the mind can stop scanning for details and simply settle. Gentle bioluminescent quiet. There are jellyfish in deep water that glow softly. Some have long trailing tentacles like threads in the dark. Some pulse slowly, conserving energy, moving as if the water itself is breathing them forward. There are squid that flash light and then disappear. There are fish that carry tiny dots of light along their bodies. There are drifting creatures so transparent and delicate that, without their glow, they would be almost impossible to see. It is a quiet world. No waves breaking, no wind, no weather. Only slow water, pressure, darkness, and the occasional soft flicker of living light. A longer drift for sleep. Now the facts can become like a lullaby. Dark water, cold water, patient life, slow movement. The ocean continues downward, and your attention can continue downward too, becoming heavier, calmer, less interested in holding onto anything. If you are still awake, that is fine. Nothing needs to happen quickly. The midnight zone does not rush. It waits. It drifts. It repeats the same gentle truth. The deep is calm. Transition toward the abyss below the midnight zone is the abyssal zone. The abyss is the deep ocean floor region, vast plains, quiet sediment, and in some places, hydrothermal vents that create islands of life without sunlight. In the next chunk, the descent continues, and you can let yourself sink into rest the way the ocean sinks into silence, slowly, safely, and without effort. Now you can drift into the abyss. The abyssal zone is one of the largest habitats on Earth. It covers enormous areas of the seafloor, far beyond what most people will ever see. It is cold, dark, and still, with pressure so great it feels almost impossible to imagine. But the abyss is not a single dramatic trench. Much of it is a wide plain. The abyssal plain is flat and quiet. Over long stretches, it can look like an endless desert, except instead of sand and wind, there is fine sediment and still water, resting under miles of ocean. The calmest kind of landscape sediment falls slowly to the abyss. It arrives as tiny particles, bits of marine snow, mineral dust, microscopic shells, and organic fragments drifting down from the upper ocean. Over thousands and millions of years, these particles settle into a soft layer. The seafloor becomes padded with time. Each thin layer is like a page in a book written slowly, one grain at a time. If it helps, imagine walking on a surface so soft and fine that a footprint would stay there for a long time, untouched by wind. In the abyss, the water movement is gentle. Storms at the surface do not reach here. Waves do not break here. There is no sunrise here. There is only steady cold. And for many creatures, that cold is normal, comfortable in the way. A stable temperature can be comfortable. Nothing changes quickly in the abyss. Life with slow metabolism, because food is scarce. Many abyssal animals conserve energy. They move slowly. They waste nothing. They have metabolisms designed for survival rather than speed. Some deep-sea creatures can go a long time between meals. The ocean teaches patience here, and patience can be a kind of rest. Sea cucumbers. Gentle recyclers, sea cucumbers are common on the deep seafloor. They are soft-bodied animals that look simple, but they perform an important role. They feed by processing sediment, extracting tiny organic bits, and leaving cleaner sediment behind. In a way, they tidy the abyss. They move along slowly and calmly, recycling what falls from above, returning nutrients to the system. Not dramatic, just steady. Giant isopods and quiet scavengers. There are also scavengers in the abyss. Giant isopods are related to the pill bugs found on land. But in the deep sea, some isopods grow much larger. They can wander the seafloor searching for food. And when they find it, they can feed for a long time. Then go without eating for extended periods afterward. They do not rush. They do not need to. The abyss rewards calm efficiency. Starfish, brittle stars, and the slow spread of arms. Some abyssal regions have sea stars and brittle stars. Brittle stars have long, thin arms that spread across the sediment like delicate branches. They can catch small drifting particles or move slowly over the seafloor, arms rippling with gentle motion. It can be soothing to picture these movements. Not fast, not sharp, just slow waves of motion across a quiet floor. Whale falls, rare islands of abundance sometimes. Something large reaches the abyss. When a whale dies, its body can sink to the deep seafloor. This is called a whale fall. A whale fall can support a whole community of life for years or even decades. First, scavengers come to feed on the soft tissue. Later, smaller creatures and bacteria take over. Even the bones can become a food source, supporting specialized organisms that can dissolve fats and nutrients locked inside the skeleton. It is another quiet truth of the deep ocean. Even in darkness, life finds a way to use what arrives. And then, slowly, it returns to stillness again. Hydrothermal vents. Heat in the deep in some parts of the abyss. The seafloor cracks open. Water circulates through the Earth's crust, heats up, dissolves minerals, and then rises back into the ocean when it emerges. It forms a hydrothermal vent, like an underwater hot spring. The water from vents can be extremely hot, but it mixes quickly with the the surrounding cold sea, creating gradients of temperature, hot near the vent, cold a short distance away. Around vents, life can be surprisingly abundant, not because of sunlight, but because of chemistry. This is one of the most fascinating parts of the deep ocean, an ecosystem powered by chemosynthesis. Chemosynthesis, energy without sunlight at hydrothermal vents. Bacteria can convert chemicals like hydrogen sulfide into energy. These bacteria form the foundation of the vent food web. Other creatures rely on them, directly or indirectly, the way surface life relies on plants and sunlight. Tube worms are one of the most iconic vent animals. Some tube worms can grow tall, clustered in dense groups. They have no mouth and no stomach. Instead, they host symbiotic bacteria inside their bodies that produce energy for them. This relationship is quiet cooperation. The worms provide a home and a steady supply of chemicals. The bacteria provide nourishment. Together, they thrive in a place that seems impossible. There can also be vent clams, shrimp, and crabs. Some creatures have adapted to live close to the vent flow, while others stay farther away where the water is colder. It is like a small oasis in the deep, a soothing image to hold now. You can picture it gently. A wide abyssal plain, dark and still. And then, somewhere in the distance, a vent field, softly shimmering water, mineral chimneys, slow-moving life clustered around warmth and chemistry. It is quiet abundance in a quiet world. If you are still awake, you can let your thoughts drift across that landscape. No effort, just imagining the deep ocean floor as a place where time slows down. In the next chunk, the story can move toward the deepest places, trenches, and the Hadal depths, then return upward into gentler currents and tides, like rising slowly toward the surface of sleep. For now, keep resting. The abyss is calm, and you are safe. Now you can drift into the trenches. If the abyssal plain is the wide, quiet floor of the ocean. Then trenches are the deep seams, long, narrow valleys cut into the Earth's crust, where the seafloor drops away into the deepest places on the planet. Trenches form at subduction zones. That is where one tectonic plate slides beneath another. The crust bends downward, creating a steep-sided groove in the seafloor. The deepest known trench is the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific Ocean. Its deepest point is called Challenger Deep. Down there, the depth is close to 11,000 meters, nearly 7 miles. It is hard to picture that depth. If you placed Mount Everest into Challenger Deep, the peak would still be underwater. And above that point, there would still be more water pressing down with enormous weight. The Hadal Zone. Beyond the abyss, the deepest trenches are part of a layer called the Hadal Zone. This zone begins below about 6,000 meters. It is named after Hades, the ancient Greek underworld, because it is so deep and so dark. In the Hadal Zone, the pressure is extreme. At the very deepest points, the pressure is over 1,000 times the air pressure at sea level. But deep-sea organisms do not explode or collapse. Because they are adapted, they tend to have little or no gas inside them, and their cells are built to function under compression. The quiet chemistry of survival in the deep trench environment. Survival depends on chemistry. Some organisms have special molecules in their cells that help stabilize proteins under pressure. These small adaptations can make the difference between life and failure in the Hadal depths. It can be calming to remember life does not always survive by force. Sometimes it survives by tiny adjustments that allow it to remain steady in a difficult place. Hadal creatures, soft bodies, gentle motion. Some of the animals found in trenches are amphipods. Amphipods are small, shrimp-like crustaceans. In the deep sea, some can be larger than expected, and they often act as scavengers, feeding on organic material that drifts down from above. There are also deep trench snailfish. Snailfish are soft-bodied fish that can live at remarkable depths. They appear delicate, almost fragile, but they are perfectly shaped for their world pressure, cold, darkness, and stillness. In trenches, movement is often slow. Food can arrive in rare moments, drifting down like a slow gift from above. And when it does, the Hadal community responds, then returns to stillness again. A deep place that is still connected. Even the deepest trenches are connected to the rest of the ocean. Water circulates across the planet through deep currents, slowly moving heat and dissolved gases. Some deep water has been traveling for centuries. It moves so slowly that a drop of water can spend a long time in darkness before it rises again. This circulation is part of what makes the ocean feel like one body. It is not separate compartments. It is one connected system, surface to deep, warm to cold, light to dark. The deep ocean's soundlessness in trenches. There is no wave noise, no wind, no rain, no breaking surf. The deep water can be almost silent, except for subtle sounds, distant seismic activity, tiny movements of animals, and far away, the faint echoes of sound traveling down from above. Sound travels well in water, and low-frequency sound can travel very far. Whales communicating in the upper ocean can create sounds that travel across huge distances, but in the trench itself, it can feel like everything is muted, cushioned by the weight of the water. A soothing mental picture. Now imagine the trench as a slow, quiet canyon. Not a frightening canyon, a calm one. Steep sides covered in fine sediment. Darkness that is complete, and the occasional small movement, an amphipod drifting, a snailfish hovering, a tiny creature moving without hurry. You can let your mind rest there, not trying to see it clearly, but letting it be an idea. The deepest place on earth is still peaceful. Gentle repetition for sleep depth, stillness, pressure, calm. The trenches are steady, and you can be steady too. If you are still awake, that is fine. In the next chunk, the story will begin to rise slowly out of the deepest depths and move into something broader again. Currents, tides, and the wide surface rhythm of the sea. And you can rise too, not into wakefulness, but into a gentler, lighter kind of sleep. A drift upward, still resting. For now, stay here in the calm. Deep water, quiet time, a safe, dark ocean holding you like a blanket. Now, very slowly, you can begin to rise. Not all the way to the surface at once. Just enough to feel the ocean widen again, less like a trench, more like a vast, moving body of water circulating around the planet. You have drifted through the surface waters, down through the sunlight and twilight, into the midnight zone, across the abyss, down into the trenches. And now the story can become broader, because the ocean is not only zones and depths. It is also motion, slow, global motion that never stops. Currents. Rivers in the sea-ocean currents are like rivers, but they flow through water instead of land. Some currents are at the surface, driven mostly by winds and by the rotation of the earth. Other currents flow deep below, driven by differences in temperature and salinity. How warm the water is and how salty it is. Even though currents can be powerful, the ocean still feels calm because most of its movement is steady, not sudden, not chaotic. It is like a slow, continuous breath of the planet. The ocean's big turning patterns at the surface. Winds push water into large rotating systems called gyres. In the northern hemisphere, these gyres generally rotate clockwise. In the southern hemisphere, they generally rotate counterclockwise. This is influenced by the Coriolis effect, created by Earth's rotation. If you imagine looking at Earth from above, you can picture these slow spirals, wide circles of water moving day after day, not rushing, just turning. Warm currents and gentle climate affects some currents carry warm water. A well-known example is the Gulf Stream. which carries warm water from the Gulf of Mexico northward along the eastern coast of the United States, then across the Atlantic. This movement helps move heat around the planet and influences weather and climate patterns. Warm currents are like slow conveyors of comfort. They carry warmth through cold regions. They soften extremes. They help balance. Cold currents and nutrient richness. Other currents carry cold water. Cold currents can bring nutrient-rich water from deeper layers up toward the surface. In many coastal regions, winds push surface water away from the shoreline, allowing deeper water to rise up to replace it. This is called upwelling. Upwelling zones tend to be highly productive. Nutrients from the deep support plankton growth near the surface, and plankton supports fish, and fish support larger animals. It is a quiet chain of nourishment rising upward. The deep conveyor belt now. Imagine the deep ocean circulation. Deep currents are driven by density. Cold water is denser than warm water. Salty water is denser than fresh water. So when surface water becomes very cold and very salty, often near polar regions, it can sink. That sinking water becomes part of deep ocean flow, spreading out across the seafloor and slowly traveling through the world's oceans. This slow global movement is sometimes described as a conveyor belt. It takes a long time. A drop of water can take centuries to complete a full journey through deep circulation. The ocean is patient on a scale that is almost hard to imagine. Stillness inside motion, even though currents move. The experience of being in the ocean can still feel still. A swimmer floating gently does not feel every current. A drifting creature does not resist the flow. It simply becomes part of it, and that can be a useful idea for sleep. You do not have to resist thoughts. You can let them move past, the way water moves past a rock. A soft reset if you are still awake. That is fine. The mind sometimes stays alert longer than the body. That is okay. Let the body keep relaxing. let the mind keep listening. There is nothing else to do. Tides. The ocean's daily rise and fall tides are another gentle rhythm. They are caused mostly by the gravitational pull of the moon and also by the sun. As the earth rotates, different coastlines pass through areas of higher water, creating high tides and low tides in a steady pattern. Many places experience 2 high tides and 2 low tides each day. Not exactly the same times every day, because the moon's position shifts, but always predictable over time. The ocean rises. The ocean falls. It returns again. The tide can feel like the ocean's breathing at the shoreline. In, out, in, out. Spring tides and neap tides when the sun, moon, and earth line up during a new moon or full moon. Tides can be stronger. These are called spring tides. When the sun and moon are at right angles, tides can be weaker. These are called neap tides. Even in the ocean's strongest rhythms, there is still balance. High tide is followed by low tide. Strong is followed by gentle. Everything returns. The quiet work of tidal currents where there are tides. There are also tidal currents. Water flows in and out of bays, estuaries, and coastal channels. These movements carry nutrients, oxygen, and small organisms. They refresh coastal ecosystems, the way breathing refreshes the body. Tidal flats appear when water pulls back. Tide pools remain behind, holding small worlds in rocky pockets, anemones, tiny fish, crabs, sea stars. When the tide returns, those worlds reconnect with the sea again. The ocean's rhythm becomes your rhythm now. Let the idea soften. Currents moving steadily across the planet. Tides rising and falling at the shore. Deep water sinking slowly. Upwelling, rising gently. Everything moving in calm cycles. Inhale, exhale. Nothing to solve, nothing to plan, nothing to hold. Another soft reset if you are still awake. That is okay. This is a long story. It is meant to last, and it is meant to be repetitive in the best way. like waves that do not need to be new to be soothing. The next and final chunk will drift into the softest part, the ocean at rest, calm weather after motion, nighttime seas, and a slow closing that fades gently so you can sleep. For now, keep listening. Let the water keep moving. Let your mind keep loosening. And let sleep arrive whenever it wants. Now you can let the ocean become even softer. This is the part where nothing needs to be new. Nothing needs to be surprising. The words can become like water itself, steady, repeating, and gentle. If you are still awake, that is okay. The body can be resting even while the mind is still listening. And the mind can drift down slowly, like a leaf settling on quiet water. No effort, no pressure, just time passing calmly. The ocean after weather after a storm. The ocean begins to settle. The wind eases. The sharp chop smooths out. The big swells keep moving, but they become longer and more organized, like the ocean remembering its calm shape. There is a softness that arrives after motion. Even if the surface still rises and falls, the edges disappear. The sea becomes a slow field of rolling water, and the noise becomes quieter. That is how rest can feel too. Not an instant stop, just a gradual smoothing. Glassy water, gentle horizons sometimes. The ocean becomes almost glassy. When wind is very low, the surface can look like polished stone. The horizon softens. The line between sky and sea becomes less important because the whole world looks like one calm color, stretched out in every direction. In those moments, the ocean feels endless. And because it feels endless, it can take the mind out of small thoughts. Plans shrink. Worries shrink. The body becomes more noticeable than the day. The breath becomes more noticeable than the mind. Night seas and quiet light at night. The ocean changes again. The surface darkens. The temperature drops slightly. The sky reflects in the water when the sea is calm, so it can feel like you are floating between two skies, stars above, and darker stars below. Far from shore, the night ocean can feel incredibly quiet. No streetlights, no buildings, only darkness and the slow movement of water. A world that does not demand anything from you. Sometimes a wave breaks and the foam glows faintly with bioluminescence. Sometimes nothing glows at all. Either way, the ocean remains calm. It is always doing the same thing, moving, settling, moving again. The softest facts: water, salt. Time ocean water is salty because it holds dissolved minerals. Over long time periods, rain and rivers carry dissolved ions from rocks on land into the sea. Those minerals accumulate, and the ocean holds them like memory. If it helps, think of the ocean as a place that remembers slowly, not in words, in chemistry, in temperature, in currents, in sediment on the seafloor, in cycles that repeat for thousands of years. The ocean also holds heat. Water changes temperature slowly, which is why oceans moderate climate. They absorb heat and release it gradually. They soften extremes. They make the world more gentle than it would otherwise be. A slow, comforting repetition. Now the words can become intentionally repetitive. Ocean, water, salt, waves, tides, currents, light above, darkness below, breathing in, breathing out. Ocean, water, salt, waves, tides, currents, stillness, motion, stillness. You do not have to follow. You do not have to remember. You can let the repetition become background. The way wave sounds become background when you are sleepy. The shoreline as a lullaby. Imagine a quiet shoreline, not crowded, no loud voices, just the soft pull of water over sand. A wave arrives, it spreads out, it pauses, and it retreats again and again. The foam dissolves into the next wave. The next wave dissolves into the next. Nothing is permanent except the rhythm. Arrive, release, return. If you want, you can match your breath to it without trying too hard. Inhale as the wave rises. Exhale as the wave falls. Inhale, exhale. The ocean inside you, the human body carries water the way the ocean carries water. It moves through you. It circulates. It maintains temperature. It carries nutrients. It supports the quiet chemistry of life. Your blood has salts and minerals. Your cells live in fluid. Your breath brings oxygen in. Your breath lets carbon dioxide out. You are not separate from nature. You are nature resting. And just as the ocean does not need to prove it is working, your body does not need you to supervise it right now. It can take over. It can repair. It can settle. It can rest. A deeper fade, less detail, more calm now. There is no need for more detail. Only softness. Only slow rhythm. Only rest. The ocean is wide. The ocean is old. The ocean is calm. And you can be calm too. If thoughts appear, let them float. If feelings appear, let them drift. Nothing needs to be answered tonight. Ocean, water, salt, wave, foam, quiet, dark, deep, still. Inhale, exhale. Ocean, water, salt, wave, foam, quiet, dark, deep, still. Final, slow, closing now. The ending can feel like it fades rather than stops. No sudden goodbye. No sharp ending. Just the sense of the ocean continuing without needing words. You can let the voice become softer in your attention. You can let the sentences blur. You can let the meaning dissolve. Because sleep does not need meaning. Sleep only needs safety and time. The ocean will keep moving. The tides will keep turning. The currents will keep flowing. And you can keep resting. There is nothing more you need to do. Nothing to fix. Nothing to hold. Only rest. Let the ocean carry you. Let the water rock you. Let the dark feel safe. Let the stillness feel deep. Inhale. Exhale. Sleep now. And if you are already asleep, the ocean will keep going for you. Quietly, endlessly, gently. Now the ocean can become even simpler. No new ideas. ideas, no new places, just the same calm rhythm, repeating softly until sleep feels deeper than thought. Imagine the shoreline again, a wide stretch of sand under a quiet sky. The water approaches, it spreads, it pauses, and it recedes. Approach, spread, pause, recede. Nothing else needs to happen. The ocean does not need permission to continue, and you do not need permission to rest. A wave arrives, the foam dissolves, the sound fades. Another wave arrives. If the mind brings up a thought, let it float on the surface. Do not chase it. Do not wrestle it. Just let it drift out, the way the tide pulls gently back to sea. Inhale slowly. Exhale fully. The ocean keeps its rhythm. In, out, in, out. Let it be even simpler now. No new facts. Only the ocean repeating what it has always done. A wave arrives. It spreads across the sand. It pauses, and it pulls back. Arrive, spread, pause, return. Your breathing can be the same. Inhale, exhale. The ocean does not ask you to think. It does not ask you to decide anything. It only offers rhythm. Imagine the waterline shining faintly in moonlight, a thin edge of pale light, then darkness beyond it, then the gentle sound of foam dissolving. Farther out, the surface rises and falls in slow swells, not breaking, not crashing, just lifting and lowering, lifting, lowering. If a thought appears, let it float. If it returns, let it float again. The tide does not argue with what the ocean brings. It simply carries it away. Ocean water quiet. Wave foam still. Inhale, exhale. You are safe. You are allowed to rest. You do not need to hold the day anymore. Now nothing changes. Only the same calm ocean repeating softly. Wave arrives. Wave releases. Wave returns. Inhale. Exhale. The water keeps its rhythm, and you can keep resting If your mind is awake, it can float. If your body is asleep, it can sink deeper. Either way, you are safe. The ocean, water, quiet, wave, foam, still. Inhale, exhale. Now the words can become like water, soft, repetitive, easy to ignore. Ocean, water, salt. Wave, foam, quiet. Dark, deep, still. Inhale, exhale. Ocean, water, salt. Wave, foam, quiet. If you are still awake, that is okay. The body can sleep in layers. The mind can quiet in layers. And each minute can take you one layer deeper. No effort, no work, no need to listen closely. Just letting the sound be present. The ocean continues. The shoreline continues. The gentle rise and fall continues. And you can continue resting, safe, still, held by the slowest rhythm on earth. Wave arrives. Wave releases. Wave returns. Inhale. Exhale. Ocean, water, quiet. Sleep now. Ocean, water, quiet. Wave arrives. Wave releases. Wave returns. Inhale. Exhale. Sleep now.